Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we all tonight? I'm assuming you can hear me. Okay, Twitch can hear me. Can YouTube hear me? Yes, you can. Hello, everybody. For some odd reason, Streamlabs is being weird again. So, title of this podcast, obviously, is First Impressions. Oh. Did we get alerts there? I heard the alert. I didn't see the alert. I think the alert was covered. Let's have a look. Who was that? Nails resub, 112 months. I have uncovered the alerts. Not completely sure why they were so very, very hidden. Now, you can see some footage in the background. It's just going to be basic footage from that I recorded. There shouldn't be any spoilers, and it's all very much from the beginning of the game. So, there's going to be the odd thing here and there, but honestly...
Welcome, minion.
I don't think it'll be anything that's really spoiler. I definitely won't be spoilerific, to be honest. Okay, we definitely got an alert, but I'm not convinced that it was visible. So I am going to move it. Oh no, that's the fire logo. Where's my alerts? Aha, that's why my alerts won't move. I'm going to move them back to where they normally are. But I've got no sound on the clip, obviously, so it's just, random. It's just basically footage from the very, very start of the game. Of the DLC, as I said. Not truly spoilerific, but you saw the alert. I'm the blind one. So, there we go. Let's have a look. How are we doing? 165 people currently, and only 34 likes. Is this because it's Starfield? I'm surprised you're still playing this dumpster fire, Gopher. Todd really dropped the ball on Starfield. Yeah, everyone said the same with Fallout 4. They're going to say the same on Elder Scrolls 6. So it's a Bethesda Game Studios game. I actually quite enjoyed Starfield, as you guys know. So, for me, it was not really the dumpster fire that everyone else claims it is. I found I had quite a few problems with it. I didn't like the space travel. I did not like the space combat. The exploration was pretty much non-existent in my mind. Basically, I had no interest in the procedural content, so I ignored it and did nothing but the handcrafted stuff. And is your voice okay? Well, I've been playing a game without speaking, so in actual fact, for the last 2 or 3 days, my voice has probably been taking a bit of a rest. Maybe it's just out of practice. Fallout 4 is better than Starfield. I'm going to put them on par with each other, realistically. They've got flaws, different flaws, strengths, different strengths. Between the two of them, if you take the strengths of the two of them, you've got Skyrim. They made different mistakes in different games. So yeah, the procedural content I had no interest in. And I gotta be honest with you, exploring Starfield was it just never really happened. I never got the urge to go exploring with Starfield. So, genuinely, that wasn't something I particularly engaged with, which is obviously a bad sign for a Bethesda Game Studios game. But the quests I liked, the overall gameplay I enjoyed outside of space combat, and, I did a full playthrough and I enjoyed it. So, Starfield looks prettier than Fallout 4. You'd sort of hope so. But I'm going to tell you right now. You know what? I'm going to move the alerts. I'm going to move the alerts to be slightly more central. I will tell you right now, the only real reason I played the DLC right now is because I'm trying to review it for you guys. Basically, and it's not because I didn't enjoy Starfield. I was going to play the DLC, but honestly, if I were not doing this channel as I'm doing it, if I were, just playing for my own thing, I'd still be playing Fallout London. I would not have stopped Fallout London to play this. I wouldn't. But then Fallout London, in my opinion, is better than Starfield and Fallout 4. So, make of that what you will. So I'm only doing it so that I can make an informed opinion on it and get ready for mods if there are any, etc., which I'm sure there will be. Because, of course, BGS games are still a staple on my channel, so I need to kind of keep up to date on it. So I haven't finished the DLC yet. Probably not by a long shot, actually. So, but I'm reasonably far I can give you some first impressions, but definitely not a deep, meaningful review. Okay. I tell you what, why don't I just give you the too long didn't read version? If you liked Starfield, you're probably going to like the DLC. If you liked Starfield, I would say you're going to like this, and it's probably, I will say in many ways it's an improvement on Starfield. It's an emphasis on the best bits of Starfield, but it's still Starfield nevertheless. So it's like the best bits of Starfield. If you hate Starfield, you're going to hate the DLC. To be honest, can't imagine that was a shock to anyone. The DLC does not change anything. It's not really it's not going to be, oh my god, this has made this game exactly what everyone who wanted it to be Skyrim. It's not going to do that. It's still Starfield. So that's your too long didn't read version, yeah? All right. So let's get into a few more details while I'm just going to keep actively changing the clip a little bit. I got quite a few crashes when I first started playing it. The first thing I did was I deleted all the files and verified the integrity. Basically, made sure it was a fresh install of the game. That definitely helped. I got less crashes. Managed to have like about an hour and a half, 2 hours, no crash. Actually, it might have even been closer to 3 hours, no crash. And then, probably about 2 hours. And then all of a sudden, crash, like crashing every 5 minutes again. So superb amounts of crashes, which I then fixed by completely uninstalling GeForce Experience, replacing my NVIDIA drivers, and then reinstalling GeForce Experience. I don't think GeForce Experience had anything to do with it, but I did notice my GeForce Experience was having an issue of its own. Nothing to do with Starfield. So the GeForce Experience was having an issue all by itself. I only noticed that because I decided to make sure that I had the latest drivers, and I found out I didn't. So got the latest drivers, all of a sudden no crashes for about 5 or 6 hours. Then I got one. So basically, I've had since cleaning the game of all mod files and really making sure it was a fresh install and getting brand new drivers, I've had one crash and one crash only. Still a crash, but make of that what you will. Nikki D, thank you for the $5 super chat. Loving the Folon Let's Play. Love Gopher podcasts. Well, thank you very much. So, you keep hearing it's really short. I don't know about that. I couldn't tell you because I've not finished it. First thing I will tell you, and you're probably picking that up from some of the footage, even without the sound, it's kind of creepy in many places. It's the best way to describe this is it feels a bit like a sci-fi horror, but not quite horror, but like a little horror-y vibe, just on the edge of horror, if that makes sense. Yeah, more or mystery, sci-fi mystery horror with a tinge of horror. That's probably how I would describe it. Do you remember, those of you who've played the game, think of the Entangled quest, the one where you kept moving between universes. You know, with the scientific experiment that was going on and it caused a problem and you were switching between universes. If you've played that, well, if you finished the game, you have played that. It's like Expanse, maybe. I don't know. I've not played Expanse, I don't think. But anyway, there is a main quest called Entangled. It's the one where you meet Raphael. Yeah? And it's kind of like that, but not. It's difficult to describe. You're not switching between universes, at least, you know, as you can see from the footage, but there's stuff like this going on. There's a similar vibe to it. If you start playing it, you'll get what I mean. I don't want to tell you any more because I don't want to ruin it for you. So it is a nice feel, and that was one of my favorite missions. Entangled was one of my favorite missions in the base game. So this is good news for me. Yeah. Beyond that, what could I say? It's a typical Bethesda experience in many ways. I started the main quest and immediately ended up picking up about 10 side quests before I'd even got to the first place I was supposed to go to get to the first main, real main quest. Big question is it worth the price? You're asking stuff that's like review stuff. I can't tell you at the moment. Haven't seen any epic beards in the expansion. A lot of face tattoos, though. Lot of face tattoos. You don't think you know that quest? Then FK, you cannot have finished the main quest. It's one of the quests you have to finish on the main quest. Entangled. Basically, there's a distress call. You go down, and there's a research facility that's had an accident. And you step through the door, and something funky happens. And it's brilliant. I loved it. You haven't finished it yet. Then I shall tell you nothing more. You've missed some of the best missions in the base Starfield game. This expansion feels kind of like that. They're trying their best. They're trying their best to capture that vibe. And I think that's good. This is definitely a DLC that shows they've been listening to the criticisms, they've been paying attention, and they've been trying to address it in ways that they can. They can't really deal with all of them, but they've gone in the right direction, I think. I will tell you that I've enjoyed some of the side quests. I've done some of the little side quests, but they're very typical Bethesda side quests. Actually, some of them are more emotional than I was expecting. There was one, I will not mention it, other than to say it was meeting an old man who was a little forgetful, and it genuinely brought a tear to my eyes, sort of thing. So, typical Bethesda stuff, but the stuff I'm enjoying. Poffley 999, thank you for the resub. No, they are not trying their best. I don't know what you're talking about. With Bethesda, yeah, definitely. They've definitely been trying to lean into the things that Starfield did right and avoid the things that Starfield did wrong. I mean, I'll give you an example. Tons of dialogue. Like tons and tons and tons of dialogue. Oh, you saw a crash on screen there. You probably saw one of the clips with a crash. That was probably my first crash.
Welcome, minion.
Jojo are far away. Thank you. The resub. So, yeah, so loads of dialogue. But then Starfield was probably their most dialogue-heavy game to date. And I did like the dialogue system in Starfield. Basically, they went back to a more traditional sort of Fallout 3 dialogue system. It was more in line with the previous Fallout games, not Fallout 4. And it had a ton of dialogue. This seems to even have more. I missed a new member. Sorry, I saw someone. Oh, Poffy 999. Well, that was a resub. I got a new member. Jojo are far away. Remember, 7 months. Nominal Angel, new member. Hello. That's on YouTube. Sorry, trying to keep on top of this. So yeah, there's quite a bit of ambient dialogue. Starfield had a lot of that as well, and by that I mean, you walk past a bunch of NPCs and they're just talking about stuff.
Welcome,
Yeah. So once again, it's full of that sort of thing, and I tell you, it does give you a ton more information and lore about House Varun, right? Like loads. You're picking up a whole new set of facts about it. You're learning way more about them, and honestly, I think you become way more sympathetic to them. Jojo Far Away has resubbed on Twitch as well. Thank you very much. Jojo's just trying to confuse me, FK. You're absolutely right. Definite Dead Space vibes. Well, I mean, it's not the whole thing. This isn't the whole thing. I'll try and have some more clips a little further on, just to try and give you a different vibe. Oh, if you're in the good graces of Andreja, might I suggest you take Andreja with you? Honestly. I mean, most of you've probably figured that one out anyway. I mean, seriously, you'd have to be nuts not to have figured that one out. All right, I want to avoid anything that's really got... Now just, let's see... Yeah, all right. So, because she's brilliant, there's loads and loads of extra lines for her. So I'm going to do some footage from when you actually get to where you're supposed to go. Again, I'm not going to go into any details about how I got there or anything like that. The planet itself is interesting. It's very blue-purple. But it does look very alien. It does look very, very alien, which is good. But it is extremely blue and purple, as you can probably see. But here's what I will say. The exploration, I can't really tell you much about it at the time. What I will say is it does, for the most part, so far, everything I've got, every quest I've got, has been within, whenever you land in Starfield, you get a 6 kilometer by 6 kilometer, Riz, thank you for the super pound super chat. Thank you very much. Yeah, you get a 6 by 6 square kilometer, 6 by 6 kilometer square of a map, right? That's basically a similar size to the Skyrim map. For some reason, they never feel as big as the Skyrim map. But I think that's because Skyrim was so well crafted that you would wind around quite a lot of places to get wherever you were going. You rarely just went in a straight line. Whereas I think in Shattered Space, you do more straight lining. In this map, they've handcrafted for you, because it's a handcrafted map. It's still 6x6. It's a little more windy if you try to follow the roads, which you will probably do. You'll probably want to find, your way through the roads. And I did enjoy that more than I enjoyed traveling on most planets. I did enjoy that. I'm wondering if I've got any... give me a second. Do I have any clips of... Oh, God. That might be why things went a bit funky. With the car... Did I get some stuff where I was further out? Yeah, I've got a ton of stuff where I'm a little bit more traveling. So you drive around. I was getting used to the vehicle. You can kind of boost with it and shoot from it, although honestly, it kind of sucks in combat. But you will use the vehicle to get around, I think. It's kind of fun. But honestly, if you've got a high-level character, that's just more for the lols. Because if you've got a high-level character, honestly, probably using your massive boost pack skills will will be enough. So, but traveling around the map seems much more fun than it did in the base Starfield game, but it ain't Skyrim. It's not Skyrim, not remotely. It's still missing that je ne sais quoi sort of thing, right? It just is, I'm afraid. So if you're expecting that, you will be very disappointed. So vehicle controls are terrible. Oh my God, vehicle controls are terrible. Neo Quattro said it. Vehicle controls are god awful. Well, no, that's no. Space flight controls were god awful. The vehicle control for the buggy are just semi awful. What would I describe it as? It's very early 2000s vehicle controls. Back when games were trying to add vehicles and we were all going, oh my God, these vehicle controls are crap. Think Mass Effect 1. It's kind of like that. You know what I'm saying? There's an option, right? It basically defaults to steering with the mouse, which kind of low-key sucks. At least it's not the standard driving controls I would like. So this is with mouse and keyboard. It was just kind of low-key horrible because it steered with mouse. I got used to it, but it's not brilliant because you want to look around when driving. You want free look with driving, don't you? Mouse and keyboard users represent, right? You want to look around. There is an option. You can turn that off so that you only steer with left and right controls. But for some odd reason, if you do that, it decides to totally balk, accelerate and decelerate, and somehow changes it so it mimics more like you're playing a third-person shooter game. As in, you press reverse, and instead of going in reverse, you go in the direction that's back as a player if you were doing third-person shooter. It's bizarre. It feels all kinds of utterly, completely wrong. Just letting you know. So, but you get used to it, and honestly, I don't think the vehicle... There you go. Here's me flying around on the vehicle. The vehicle's kind of okay-ish fun. I think it uses perks from your boost pack, because there seems to be a bit of slowdown when you aim on my character. If I aim, there's time slowdown, so it looks like it's using the boost pack skills. But you don't seem to get any damage or armor piercing skills from whatever the hell that weapon is. So, so, it's not. I'm glad there's a vehicle there. I'm glad there's a vehicle. But I've got like an NG Plus character. And honestly, if you've played NG Plus enough, you end up you don't need a vehicle. I'm using it just to try it out and have fun trying it out. But you could boost pack across the entire map without stopping, even carrying 3,000 overweight. It's mouse steering is better. Mouse steering theoretically could be better in theory, but there's very few games use mouse steering, and I don't really like getting used to a whole new way of driving. Because if I go back to Cyberpunk now, everything's going to feel utterly wrong. Or if I get used to Cyberpunk, play that for now, and then go back to this, it's all going to feel wrong. And that's a sign that you're basically try and go with the standard is what I would say. So it's not that you can't get used to it. You can. It's just it's so non-standard, or it's so standard 2006. Yeah, and Andresia loves it when you take her driving. Cyberpunk was so bad on release for driving. I don't agree, but it's better now, that's for sure. But that's just because they've got different sensitivities. But it is better now, but only a little. Who's that? Is that? Oh God, I can't read it because I've got. I missed it. Here we go. Captain Zero, $30. Thank you very much. Thank you for that donation. Seriously, thank you. I appreciate it. Never had any issues with driving in Cyberpunk 2077. Guess I'm just a better driver. Yeah, low-key flex there. So yeah, I mean, I always enjoyed driving in Cyberpunk. They did tweak the controls in one of the patches to make it a little easier. But overall, I don't think they changed it too much. I think most people just got used to the driving and got better at it. I'd say with Cyberpunk, a lot of people just had to get used to the fact that you can't keep your foot on the pedal when going around the city. I think a lot of people just wanted to drive like that. So, Cyberpunk cars seem very slow when you're going 100 miles an hour. That's because you're doing third person. You go first person, they seem a lot faster. But first person just is. First person without a sense of perspective just doesn't work very well in driving games. Well, driving games around a city, racetrack games is fine, but there's a different set of challenges when driving through a city. So, but anyway, back to Starfield. Stop trying to distract me too much. I know what you're doing. When did I set the? I think we got to wrap it up soon. We got to wrap it up soon, guys. So let's have a look. First person on a bike couch. No, we're not talking about that. Right. One thing I will tell you that I think is bad about this DLC. No ands, ifs, or buts. You must join House Varun. If you get this DLC, if you've bought this DLC and you're playing a character that won't join, become a card-carrying member of House Varun, you're fresh out of luck. You'll get through the first initial mission, and that's it. The rest of the DLC is denied to you. It is completely denied to you. As in the early game trait. No, But they will say, you must join us. You must become one of us. And you have to do it. If you don't, no, it's worse than Nuka World. At least with Nuka World, there was you didn't actually have to become a raider. What I will tell you is, well, like there's not even a choice like, well, I could join, but I don't necessarily. I'm not a believer. There's not even it's like something that makes it obvious to you that you're just going to lie. You could role play, which is what I did. You could just pretend that you're going to lie to them and say you'll join, and just be there as a non-believer who just lied his ass off. But what happens if you're role-playing someone who just wouldn't do that? If you are playing a character that would never fake it, but can't do the belief, right there, you're going to have to stop. So you're going to have a character that will at least agree to join House Varun. It's not too bad, though, because once you've done that, there are plenty of lines that make it obvious that you don't necessarily believe. And some people will not like it, or even say, you should be careful saying that sort of thing. And it doesn't, there's not a whole heap of religion that you have to deal with. Basically, there's one little ritual. And honestly, the best way to describe the ritual is if you've played the United Colonies faction, you remember the bit where you had to walk through all the displays and listen to the history? It's way more like that. That's your ritual. So it's not deep on the religion. They don't really... I get the feeling that they don't expect you to actually believe, but it's never implicitly said. So it's a bit of a... It's not brilliant, in my opinion. Here's what I will tell you. It's the House Varun faction quest line. And I know when I say that. I'm going to get people saying, it should have been this from the start. And I always roll my eyes a little bit at comments like that because I don't believe... when people say, this should have been here from the start, this should have been here from the start, in a game that's got so much content that you could spend 250 hours on a single playthrough, I find myself, no. It's perfectly fine to have a game that, as long as it's got a decent amount of content, and you add some more later. However, in this particular case, I have a bit of sympathy for this, because here's the thing. Faction quests are all like this, right? You can't do the United Colonies quest line unless you agree to join them. You can't do the Freestar Rangers unless you agree to join them. And you can't, it's the same with all of these faction quests. And you either do them all with one character because you've decided you've come up with a character that will do this, or you'll do multiple playthroughs, and on some playthroughs you won't do every faction quest. And that sounds okay for the Varun one. There's some characters you're going to do that just would not do the Varun faction quest line. But having a DLC that's like that, and it's your first DLC, it rubs me up the wrong way a little bit. It rubs me up the wrong way. It would be, imagine Nuka World. Here's how it is. Imagine Nuka World where you almost had to become a raider. Imagine if, well, we will let you become our leader, but first of all, you have to go and raid a settlement and if you don't do that, you just can't do the DLC. You'd be like, okay, I'm not doing the DLC then. I just spent $20 on a DLC that this character can't do. I'm going to have to start a new character just to do the DLC, and I didn't want to, and So this is one of those cases that you're going to hear people saying, this should have been in from the start, and whilst I don't always agree with the sentiment there, I think this kind of faction quest line as a DLC feels wrong. So this DLC versus Phantom Liberty, you can't even compare them. You can't even, don't even, it's not, to be honest, it's not even a conversation, really. I'm serious. It's just not a good conversation to have. So they're just wildly different. But other than that, again, I'm forming new opinions. There are some new weapons. 2 of them seemed radically different, and my character wasn't very good with them. And some of them just seem like Varun versions of existing weapons. So, like, exactly the same. Although one of the things I did quite like is there's a whole heap of new books. Only you're going to recognize a lot of them, and they've been converted, as in made suitable for Varun people. So I guess it's not too bad that they took a lot of yeah, this one guy I was chatting with right here, you can see
Minion.
he didn't look at me the entire conversation. Avery, thank you for the resub. This is one of the things I do notice that irritates me a little with Starfield. Sometimes if you catch somebody, if you try talking to them and they're mid-animation, they'll stay in that animation until the end of the conversation. Or if they're ending an animation and you're trying to talk to them, nothing will happen for like 5 or 6 clicks. It's kind of annoying. What I will tell you is I had a depth conversation with him. No quest. This is one of the things I do like about Starfield and indeed the DLC. There's a bunch of times you can just stop and have a conversation with someone, and it's just, well, it's just for role-playing purposes only, which I appreciate personally. Just trying to mix the footage up a little bit. To be honest, nobody said Skyrim DLC swords were reskinned. So, well, I mean, I don't mind the reskin weapons. It's just, I got real excited when I saw new names. It wasn't like laser rifle with a Varun skin. It's got its own name, and you think, where? Oh, well. So, you thought the books were different, didn't twig why? Yeah, read the books. They've been made correct by Varun standards. So, yeah. Having a DLC like that is one thing, but if it isn't in the description somewhere so you know before you buy it with real-world money, that's arse. Even if it is in the description, imagine people who bought the, the What's It edition, the full season pass edition, so they get all the DLC, and the very first DLC that comes out, and they're really looking forward to playing the DLC, and it just doesn't suit their character. That could be a seriously major downer, and I'm not saying they can't get around it, but they might not want to. They might want to play the DLC with their current character. There may be people who've decided to play the game, but they never do the Ryujin because they do not agree with joining a corporation, and they want to play like this. If a DLC came out that basically demanded they do this, and it was the only DLC that had come out so far, and they basically paid for it in advance with the deluxe edition or whatever, they'd probably be peeved. I feel like DLC content. I mean, you look at Dawnguard for Skyrim, right? Look at Dawnguard. That was the vampire DLC, right? But you don't have to become a vampire. There's an opposite path. Far Harbor. There's 3 or 4 different ways you can go through Far Harbor. Even Nuka World. You can go through Nuka World and be planning to free all the slaves from the very get-go. And it's all very possible. So, although, let's face it, Nuka World got its criticisms because it really was very focused around someone who wanted to become a raider. So, I don't know. $30 for this DLC is not worth its content compared to previous DLC. Well, I'm assuming, Victor, you've finished all the content, so you'd have a better idea than me. I've not finished it yet, so I cannot tell you. But so far, I get the feeling there's a lot of content in this DLC. And you got to remember, $30 for this DLC is probably, monetary-wise, cheaper than... How much did the the DLC like Far Harbor cost? It cost $20 8 years ago. I don't know what inflation will have made that, but it's probably comparable. So it's worth $5 max. Caleb, I have a feeling you've not played it, mate. I mean, I've not played all of it, but it's definitely worth more than $5. Sorry, it's Phantom Liberty was $30 too, way more content. Again, Christopher, I have played Phantom Liberty all the way through. I've not played Starfield, so I cannot comment on that. Although what I will say is Phantom Liberty is one of those super rare things like Hearts of Stone, Blood and Wine, Witcher 3. It's one of those games that's just worth way more. But I'm of the opinion that Cyberpunk 2077 was worth way more than the asking price. And, you know, there's still a lot of people salty about that game. So, this DLC is not even close to it. So there's a lot of people in my chat who have apparently played everything this DLC has to offer and are convinced it is not worth the asking price. Again, I cannot argue with you. Sorry. You beat it in 6 hours and you did 100% of its content. You sure? Oh, do you skip all the dialogue? Are you one of these people who just skip? Because I was gonna say, I'm not even totally sure you could actually go through all the dialogue in 6 hours that I've gone through. And you know, that's just dialogue. So it's again, because I mean, I've had conversations that went on for 15 minutes and didn't even give like, oh no, I think actually the longest I had that didn't give a quest was probably about 7 or 8 minutes. But I've had ones that were just a stage in the quest and I've got like 15 minutes of dialogue going. So God knows. Who we got? Echoes! Donation! $10. Thank you very much, Testing for Science. But anyway, like I said, here's what I will tell you. Phantom Liberty is far better than most $60, $70 games. Agreed. I mean, that's no argument from me. It's like when Witcher 3 came out. $60 and was one of the most incredible games I've ever played. I was warning people, please do not think that this is going to be now the standard, because it ain't. So screw Star Scam. Okay, interesting opinion. He probably also didn't have crashes that set him back every time. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I got so many crashes early on. But again, that doesn't seem to necessarily be the game. That was driver related by the looks of things. So 8-ish hours with no skip dialogue. The dialogue in the later half is boring. 8 hours. I don't know how you did it then. I don't know how you played it in 8 hours without skipping dialogue, to be honest. But you know, well done, I suppose. But for me, I don't know how long it's going to take me. I really don't know, because I'm not let's playing it, so it's not taking me as long as it would normally take when I let's play these things, because I'm not speaking out loud. But I am listening to the dialogue. I don't skip it, and I am going through most of the dialogue as well. So but anyway, so again, it's all first impressions for me. My basic, I'm going to go back to it. Just going to wrap up with what I think. If you liked Starfield, you're probably going to like the DLC. If you didn't like Starfield, you're probably not going to like the DLC. Gopher's going to finish it in 10 hours and be like, I'd have to check how long I got in it, but if it's 10 hours, that's basically means that means I'm going to finish it very early tomorrow morning then. And I feel like I'm not. Because I got a bunch of quests still on the go. So, I haven't done very much exploring, but I've explored one or two places that I passed. I'd pass a place, and that is unusual. That is one thing I will give the Shattered Space DLC while driving the car that rarely happened to me when I was playing Starfield. I would be on my way to a quest, and I'd see a place, and I'd think, ooh, and then I'd go in. That just didn't happen in Starfield. And I think a lot of it's because I know it's all handcrafted content. Whereas in Starfield, I very, very early on, first few episodes, just got a nose for, that's fluff. That's just procedural fluff. Ignore. There was one place I went to in the DLC where I didn't find anything of interest other than things to murder and loot. But I suspect this is probably a place I'm going to have to go back to at a later date. But like I found a monument sort of thing that was kind of cool and things like this. So don't forget Gopher doesn't fast travel either. You don't need to fast travel in this DLC, Kalos. You really don't. It's basically because, mind you, I say this, I don't need to fast travel because my character's level 120 something and's got boost pack maxed out. I can probably get across the... It would be like playing Skyrim and just doing TCL and just sprinting from one side of the map to the next. It doesn't take long, believe it or not. So... It's possibly taking me longer because, of course, I am reading all of the terminals as well. That's also true. I do still read the terminals. So... Shattered Space is 8 quests from start to finish. The main quest, you mean? That might be true, but there's a ton of side quests. So... But again, I can't really argue with people who've played it all the way through. Not with any authority, because I've not played it all the way through. That's the thing. I've not actually played it all the way through. Seeing one of the new weapons, it's well weird. Didn't like it. I still end up relying on my trusty old particle beam weapons, though. All right. They need to downsize? What are we talking about? Even with only the basic boost pack perk and balanced boost pack, you can get around very quickly. Well, no, what I mean is my character's got all the perks that make the boost packs, like, really, really, really good and powerful. And I never run out of stamina, even if I'm carrying like 1,000 items. So me not fast traveling doesn't make a difference much. Once you get to NG+, your mobility is just off the charts. So, time to switch. Half the chat is, yeah, probably. Any Starborn influence yet? One quest, I got to do a Starborn option. Not totally sure why, because usually you need to have done the quest before you say something as Starborn, but it seemed quite appropriate as well. So I think it was more a matter of me going, God, you've no idea, when someone was saying something. So yeah. I think if you explore the entire planet and completely survey it, I doubt I'm going to do that, but I will do all the side quests and the main story, probably. So... But again, it just comes down to it's more Starfield, but it's the sort of Starfield you got playing the mission Entangled. Yeah, so think of it like that. Think of it as if you enjoyed the mission Entangled and you generally enjoyed Starfield, the DLC is probably going to be fine for you as long as you're okay joining House Varun. If any of those things are a no, then you're just not going to like it. And if you're someone who doesn't like Starfield, I have got no idea why you're even interested in this. Starfield is cool, but I like fantasy like Elder Scrolls. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's my least favorite IP of theirs. Even though, honestly, I'd rate Starfield and Fallout 4 as about equal in games. I still prefer the Fallout IP, and I much prefer the Elder Scrolls IP. So, yeah. Basically, that's... You cannot deny that, and if you are, it's just not going to help Bethesda get better. I have no idea what you guys are talking about at this point, and I probably shouldn't, should I? It's probably not worth me asking. Yeah, okay. If we're just down to bash Starfield at the moment, again, I'm little to no interest. Sorry, guys. I will say, though, even though I did enjoy Starfield and I am enjoying the DLC, I can't wait to finish it so I can get back to Fallout London. That should tell you quite a lot. Right there. Definitely prefer Fallout London, hands down. Not Fallout 4, but Fallout London, hands down. So, yeah, ladies and gents, that does seem to be it. So, I'm going to go off and I'm going to play Baldur's Gate 3. And probably get everything wrong, as I usually do. So, ladies and gents, if you want to join me for Baldur's Gate 3, more of, basically stay here. Well, no, if you're on YouTube, it's got a different stream set up. I will start that one in a couple of minutes, and I will see you guys all there.